Imagine this: a courtroom packed with lawyers, clerks, and reporters expecting a routine day, a quick procedural hearing that should have barely made the headlines. September 9th was supposed to be that day, but instead it turned into something entirely different, an implosion so brutal that Meghan Markle's carefully crafted image as the woman in control, the one who always stayed 3 moves ahead, shattered in real time. And she wasn't even in the room. This wasn't just law, it was theatre. And Meghan's team was on the wrong side of the performance. When the gavel dropped, the mood was ordinary. But then came the voice of Chief Judge William Pryor. Calm, surgical, cutting. He looked at Meghan's attorneys and said 7 words that froze the air in the courtroom. Your arguments are beside the point. Now, pause for a second. That wasn't a casual remark. That was a nuclear strike dressed in judicial calm. Lawyers trained for years to avoid that exact moment, when the judge dismisses not just one motion, but your entire foundation. And with that sentence, the confidence drained from Meghan's team. People watching could see it. Their faces turned pale, their posture slumped. The room shifted from routine business to slow-motion disaster. And here's the twist. Meghan wasn't even there, but her absence only made it worse. Because while she sat in Montecito, her lawyers were left exposed, stripped of the aura of control she'd built around her brand. Then, across the courtroom, someone else seized the stage. Samantha Markle's attorney, Peter Tictton. A veteran litigator, the kind of man who thrives in pressure, who doesn't just argue law, he performs it. He didn't come armed with endless technicalities. He came with something more lethal: clarity. And while Meghan's attorneys scrambled, Tictton sliced through them like a scalpel. He called their defense a smorgasbord of arguments. It sounded playful at first, almost mocking. But it was deadly. Why? Because it stuck. It told the court and everyone listening that Meghan's team wasn't confident, that they were throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something might stick. That phrase left the building with people repeating it. And once a narrative sticks in law, in press, in gossip circles, it doesn't go away. And that's when the collapse began. Instead of fighting back with strength, Meghan's lawyers admitted something shocking. They had overlooked critical procedures in their own filings. Think about that. These are lawyers paid to be the best, paid to protect her image at all costs, and they stood in federal court, admitting to rookie-level mistakes. The silence that followed wasn't just courtroom etiquette, it was the silence of disbelief. The silence of people realizing they were witnessing a train wreck. Meanwhile, Tictton didn't gloat. He didn't raise his voice. He simply pointed out inconsistencies, exposed the holes, and let Meghan's team self-destruct. It was a masterclass in letting the other side hand you the win. But this wasn't just legal sparring. No, the stakes were bigger. Because then came the emotional dagger. Samantha Markle's team revealed that after Meghan's media blitz, her Oprah interview, her Netflix series, Samantha had received death threats. Not vague, anonymous trolling. Real threats. Documented, credible enough for law enforcement to get involved. And the timing, perfectly aligned with Meghan's most public statements. This shifted everything. Suddenly, Samantha's case wasn't just about words or family drama. It became about consequences, about what happens when a global figure with a massive platform says something that erases a sibling's identity. Meghan's words didn't just sting. They allegedly fueled a wave of hate that threatened Samantha's safety. Now imagine being Meghan's attorneys at that moment. Their whole defense strategy was built on, it's just opinion. It's protected speech. But when those words allegedly trigger real-world threats, that defense starts to collapse. and in court, collapse is fatal. This was no longer a question of free speech. This was a question of responsibility, influence, power, and whether Meghan Markle's words carried consequences she could no longer dodge. Insiders say Meghan's camp back in Montecito went into full crisis mode that very night. Phones lit up. PR consultants scrambled. Crisis managers drafted statements. Brand advisors debated strategy. But here's the thing. Spin doesn't erase federal transcripts. You can't out-podcast or out-Instagram a judge's brutal words. And Judge Pryor's commentary was so sharp, so damning, that people close to the court are whispering it might make its way into the final written decision, almost unchanged. If it does, it's game over for Meghan's untouchable reputation in legal circles. Because once it's written, it's permanent. A federal document, a roadmap for anyone else thinking of suing her, business partners, former staff, even other relatives. Samantha's case might not even need to win outright. The damage has already been done. The weakness is now exposed, and future litigants just got the blueprint. That's why insiders describe Montecito right now as chaos. Executives backing away, potential deals quietly put on hold, studios inserting liability clauses in contracts. Because suddenly, Meghan isn't just seen as a brand risk. She's seen as a legal risk, a magnet for lawsuits, a woman whose image of strength has collapsed into volatility. And Harry? He can't escape it either. His brand is chained to hers. He wanted to be the global advocate, the humanitarian, the mental health leader. But now, every headline that drags Meghan's courtroom collapse also drags him. The fallout doesn't stop at her name. And here's the most brutal twist of all. Inside royal circles, far away behind palace walls, insiders say there's quiet vindication. No statements, no interviews, just a grim acknowledgement. The couple who once scorched the monarchy with their words are now being scorched themselves, not by tabloids, but by judges. And that lands differently. We've only scratched the surface. Because the real question, the one hanging in Hollywood boardrooms, in Montecito mansions, in royal palaces, is this. What happens when the written decision drops? If the judge's scathing words make it into permanent record, Meghan won't just lose in court. She'll lose the one thing she's fought to protect above all else, her image of control. And once that's gone, the dominoes start falling. Stay with me, because in part 2, we're going deeper into the ripple effects already spreading through Meghan's world, the Hollywood deals quietly collapsing, the whispered fears inside her own circle, and why this one courtroom disaster may haunt her for years. Before we get there, don't forget, if you're watching this and you want the truth the mainstream avoids, hit that subscribe button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's expose this story for what it really is. So here's where the story turns from courtroom drama into a full-blown crisis. Because Meghan's legal meltdown wasn't just one bad day. It was the spark that lit a fire spreading across her entire brand. Behind the polished walls of Montecito, the atmosphere is described as chaotic, not tense, not difficult, chaotic. Her inner circle has been running emergency drills ever since the hearing. Crisis PR specialists who usually juggle celebrities and corporations are now almost exclusively glued to Meghan's case. Phone calls are endless. Contracts are being double-checked. Brand managers are hunting for distractions, anything that can pull attention away from those federal transcripts. But here's the problem. You can't distract from a courtroom implosion when the entire legal world is replaying it like a highlight reel. Every podcast host, every gossip columnist, even serious legal analysts are circling the same phrase. Beside the point. Judge Pryor's words aren't just sound bites, they're reputational scars. And those scars are starting to bleed into Meghan's professional life. Entertainment insiders whisper about meetings cancelled at the last minute, potential collaborators suddenly going cold, studios that once leaned on her name for global attention now inserting what they call legal volatility clauses into contracts. Translation: we'll work with you, but if your lawsuits drag us into court, we're out. Think about how devastating that is. Meghan has spent years constructing her post-royal identity, elegance, intellect, empowerment. But when your lawyers admit to missing basic procedures in open court, that entire brand collapses. It doesn't matter how many sleek photo shoots or podcasts you release, the gap between perception and reality is too wide, and Hollywood is brutal when it smells weakness. And then there's Harry. He didn't sit in that courtroom, but his reputation is chained to Meghan's. His push to rebrand as a mental health advocate, a humanitarian, a leader, suddenly those headlines are drowned out. Instead, he's dragged into Meghan's courtroom collapse by association. Sources say, behind closed doors, that pressure is boiling, tensions rising, arguments flaring, because Harry knows, when Meghan sinks, so does he. Meanwhile, Samantha Markle's attorney, Peter Tictton, isn't just playing for the present, he's playing the long game. His strategy isn't about winning this one motion or even this appeal, it's about exposing cracks. And he succeeded. Even if the case is dismissed tomorrow, Meghan's vulnerability is now documented. Future litigants, disgruntled staff, old business partners, maybe even other family members, suddenly have a roadmap. They know where to press. They know where she breaks. That's the kind of strategic gold lawyers dream about. And Meghan's team? They handed it over themselves. And let's not forget the emotional grenade Tictton lobbed into the record. Samantha's claim of receiving credible death threats after Meghan's public comments. That argument isn't about law. It's about optics, responsibility, consequences. It forces the question, when Meghan Markle speaks to millions, is she just sharing her truth? Or is she wielding influence that can mobilize threats? Legal experts are already whispering that this case has opened a Pandora's box. If a judge decides Meghan's comments had real-world consequences, then the opinion defense her lawyers love to rely on gets weaker. And if that defense weakens here, it weakens everywhere. That's a precedent Meghan cannot afford. The ripple effects are ugly. Crisis managers in Hollywood are spooked. Brand consultants who once pitched Meghan as a symbol of empowerment are now revising decks, asking, can we market someone the courts are branding as reckless? Even podcast producers, yes, the very people Meghan hoped would help her rebrand, are now nervous about lawsuits spilling into their projects. One producer allegedly asked bluntly, if we release this episode, are we getting subpoenaed next? That's how deep the chill runs. And the royals? Behind palace gates, sources describe a mix of concern and grim satisfaction. They aren't speaking publicly. They don't need to. The silence says it all. Years ago, Meghan and Harry rocked the monarchy with their interviews, their accusations, their documentaries. Now, the tables have turned. The chaos isn't being driven by tabloids or palace leaks. It's being driven by federal judges. And that lands with a weight the monarchy doesn't need to lift a finger to reinforce. What's most striking here is how fast the narrative flipped. Meghan, once untouchable with her army of elite lawyers, now looks exposed, disorganized, and overwhelmed. One bad day in court stripped away years of branding. One sharp line from a judge cut through all the polish. And now, the image of control, the one thing Meghan's built her empire on, is slipping away. And here's where it gets darker. The written opinion from Judge Pryor hasn't even landed yet. That's the ticking time bomb. Insiders say his commentary during the hearing was so brutal, so unforgiving, that toning it down for the record might not even be possible. If his phrases, beside the point, procedural oversights, smorgasbord of arguments, end up printed in federal documents, they'll be cemented in history. Anyone, years from now, looking to challenge Meghan will have that blueprint. A permanent public record showing exactly how to dismantle her defences. And Meghan knows it. That's why the panic in Montecito is so intense. PR statements won't erase a judge's words. Crisis consultants can't rewrite legal opinions. And Hollywood execs don't gamble on volatility. So the question hanging over everything isn't whether Meghan lost one hearing. It's how badly this will haunt her going forward. Will she recover? Or is this the moment the entire house of cards begins to fall? Because the truth is simple. Losing a legal battle is bad. Losing your image of control, that's fatal. And Meghan Markle, the woman who built her empire on the illusion of being untouchable, just had that illusion ripped apart in a federal courtroom. And that, more than any verdict, is the real price she's paying. If you've been watching this far, you see what's happening. The cracks, the chaos, the unravelling. And we're only at the beginning. The next phase will be even more brutal. Because once that written decision drops, it's not just Meghan on trial. It's her entire brand. So don't go anywhere. Subscribe, hit the bell, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Meghan can recover from this courtroom collapse? Or is this the beginning of the end for her Hollywood reinvention? Because the next chapter isn't just coming, it's already in motion.